Law. With this video, I just wanted to emphasize something real quick on how backwards this whole world, this whole society is right now. I was just watching Owen Benjamin real quick and caught him in the middle of opening this mail. His mail that he says his bears send him. And he's reading like letters that, you know, along with the packages sent. Somebody sent him some tea, and he's like, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not gonna drink the tea or, you know, use the tea. He doesn't want to put it in his body. You know, understandable and all that. Point being is that in reference to the recent YouTube censorship and so on and so forth, look at the money that's going in to these midstream these midstream media people. This is the transition from the mainstream media over to the online, like the YouTube TV, the Amazon Prime, the Netflix. These are the individuals that are going to usher in that transition and make America great again through the interpretation of like putting the American stuff, like the mentality, online. So the freedoms that we thought we had from the Constitution and the American way and all that other nonsense, I'm seeing it now as the so-called New World Order. All of our freedoms are now so-called freedoms are now going to be shared. The unifying agent in this whole New World Order storyline seems to be like the internet. So the internet connects everything, the World Wide Web, that whole thing. It will definitely be the web of artificial intelligence. So there's the web of simulation theory, transhumanism, the innovation, church mentality, through technology, monkey evolution, so on and so forth. All these things, then you can sprinkle in the activators of Oprah, Super Soul Sunday, the New Age community, the so-called New Age community, the revamping of the new religion, like the revamping of a spiritual connection. The old way was the Crusades, like the Christian, the whole sending the Spanish down, the Conquistadors and everything. Excuse me, to send that whole shock wave of consciousness, and in many cases anti-consciousness, to affect the people on a massive scale. This is the new form of that. YouTube promoting that same kind of conquistador mentality, instead of on ships with, you know, steel swords and shields and the Bible. They now have YouTube and Owen Benjamin's, Joe Rogan's, Alex Jones's, and so on and so forth. The internet, Facebook, Instagram, social media, and so on and so forth. This is the new version of the colonizing of consciousness. So it's not just the land, but now they're going for your mind. They've been going for your mind, but they've been going more actively for the soul. So the activating more so into the psychological warfare is what the so-called internet, the World Wide Web, was doing. The first part of that was to conquer the land and take the people, beat them down, and then create a whole illusory universe. These individuals who are successful in that illusory universe, the same people who are on the speakers that go on Joe Rogan, including Owen Benjamin, as much as he wants to separate himself from Joe Rogan, he is no different than a Joe Rogan, because he is still mouthing off the same consciousness. He just seems to be different because of you know, the people who get enveloped within the illusory intricacies within an illusory system. There is no separation there. There's no separation between Owen Benjamin and Joe Rogan and Alex Jones, period. They're all speaking on stolen land, stolen consciousness. All of this is chaos. They are speaking in a whirlwind of chaos and trying to make it seem like they are grasping onto some kind of reality, but there is no reality. He's maintaining the space of limbo right now. To speak about flat earth, the very nature of your universe, he is desensitizing the people now. He's desensitizing the people to the very nature, the lies of your universe, the lies of who and what you are, and sucking you into the survival mentality, the fear mentality of the prepper, the 1776 Alex Jones revolutionary. He is just another. He's just a micro version of InfoWars. He's just not selling the bone broth. He's just selling you the psychological bone broth. He's selling you the spiritual bone broth. He's selling you all that. It's the same shit. And there ain't no separation between Alex Jones and Joe Rogan. Like I said, they all speaking on the same podcast. This is all a cast. Like creating little bubbles of spells, casting these spells, these sections of thought, sections of bubbles of consciousness that people are enveloping themselves in. And you see a reoccurring number of 4,000 to 5,000, 3,000, 5,000 people speak. Just listening, there was a joke on here, but it was true. You know, somebody said something about the mainstream media needs to pay attention to the fact that 4,000 people are watching a guy, you know, open mail with a knife, you know, like, but besides the point, because those numbers are all flubbed anyway, and not to mention that's the whole point of this whole thing. If you know that they are going to hide, like I've said this before, you know they're putting information, flat earth information, or whatever you want to call it, information in the corner somewhere, then you're just basically watching cable TV now. That's what's happening, right? And this was Owen Benjamin. He's just Showtime. Alex Jones is Cinemax, and Joe Rogan is HBO. It's the same shit. They just put it on YouTube, and they make it seem like they're different, but they're not. This is the way they make it seem different is by putting individuals in front of you to tell you that it's different. These are their spellcasters. Owen Benjamin is a spellcaster. And then they throw all this money in your face to make it seem like it's important, like people are really paying, you know, like doing it. And not even going into the whole Operation Mockingbird, COINTELPRO, like that stuff is not still going on, and how like all these numbers could just be numbers generated. Like that cannot even that might not even be money. You know that there are, you know, fake accounts all over the place to comment negatively. You don't think they're going to be fake accounts on their main, you know, talking heads out there, you know, putting fake money out there in front of your face to make it seem like it's more relevant, more important? This is not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence. At the same time, they are saying specifically flat earth is not something that they're gonna put it in a corner somewhere. They're gonna bury it. They're gonna bury your videos. They're not even gonna recommend them. So if they're doing that, they're going to amplify a certain type of consciousness as well. These arrogant man children like Owen Benjamin and Joe Rogan and Alex Jones, ain't no separation from them. And Bill Maher's another example too. He's the HBO version of all these assholes out there. They talking the same shit. They ain't said one fucking word about pre-Columbian history and all the shit that went on in colonialism and so on and so forth. They are the protectors of that Western colonized consciousness. And they're, like I said, the very nature of Owen Benjamin now to be introduced to the idea that your very universe is not what it is. He's there to desensitize. He's there to suck you into the so-called human consciousness, the human mentality, which is the illusion of this reality. It's no different than the monkey-minded consciousness reality. He's there to consume your mind with the so-called conspiracy theory talk, no different than somebody calling themselves woke. He is a live stream podcast manifestation of the word woke. It matters of none. Nothing matters in that in that word. There's no substance to it. The only substance he has is his voice and what people think, you know, is real about him. And then it's only going to go as far as he only cares about himself. He's not concerned about, you know, the macro storyline. He is the bone broth. He, like I said, he's like a personified bone broth. This is what Owen Benjamin is. Personified bone broth. Only people who pay attention, who have been watching these videos are gonna know what the hell that means. But that's true. He's no different. He's just he's like the man-child birthed from the InfoWars years, and now he's realized the propaganda machine that is the Joe Rogan podcast, and he played on that show, and now he feels, you know, sad or, you know, angry or whatever because he fell for it and whatever. They might have been friends at one time or whatever, and then now he needs to protect the honor of his bone broth buddy Alex Jones, and now they're teaming up, you know, playing Godzilla versus King Kong on stolen land. And he's sitting here opening up this, you know, mail call, you know. Like I said, the main thing with Owen Benjamin is he is desensitizing you. He is normalizing you to this like, he's so-called successful, and look how he is in that whole. I don't want to really go into the psychology of like breaking down his set, because this is a set. Check this set out. You know, when somebody mentioned on the channel before, like his lighting and everything, the professional lighting. You know, there's angles that are coming, you know, from certain, you know, places. Not to say that, you know, it matters or anything, but point being is that this is not separate from the mainstream media propaganda machine. It's the same thing. It's just in a more complex version of it. So, like I said, and I'll close this out, one of the main things he does is, since he's already been introduced to the information that is the not heliocentrism, you know, the same way the so-called flat earthers desensitize you to the nature of being lied to you about your universe, your realm, by focusing your attention only on the physicality of this storyline, the flat versus globe, and then not even going into the people who the experiencers. See, this is the other side of, you know, realizing that you're not living in this dead planet, you know, completely make-believe as universe. Once you realize that it's not only that there's an intelligence to this reality, but you're not only realizing the experience itself, or the experience. Yeah, you're not only realizing what's going on with the experience because you've removed an illusory experience. You are now also realizing another part of yourself, the experiencer. So there's a whole universe of the experiencer. Individuals like Owen Benjamin, who simplify everything with the whole post-Columbian psychopathic wall. It can't go any further. Like that there's that whole mentality where they can't go any further than a certain like barrier of wall. Like there's a thought process that breaks down and it starts to implode. What's happening is that the realm, the universe that these individuals have been living in for so long now and been comfortable for so long now, it's starting to implode. Like I said, the bone broth metaphor is like a really good example of what's going on with this individual. And there's a lot of people, like I said, okay, let's cut his numbers down all the way to 10%. So maybe 400 people tuning in right now. It's probably more than that. More than that, 1,000. Maybe 1,000. Maybe just like 900 or something like that really tuning in. That just feels natural. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that this dude is there to consume your time, just make you be angry. You're not supposed to get intelligent about anything. You're just supposed to be angry with information. Kind of like the other version, another kind of version of New Agers who just want you to be loving all the time. It's just another version of, one-sidedness. So they just want you to love and only that's it, but not really. So that's not very complex. It's not to say that anybody else has to be. Maybe some people only just want to, hey, be over there. But what I'm saying is that there's a complexity to being which is more accurate. There's a deep love into engaging within this experience and from the perspectives of which I'm talking about right now. That's a deeper kind of love that is outside of the new age kind of mouthpiece that they throw out there called love. It's not the same shit. So like I'm saying, like that deeper love that is going into the depths of realizing what's going on with these illusions and this whole, like, even going into like breaking down racism and white supremacy and all those mind control programs. Like that's a deep, powerful love to really want to, heal those wounds, would really want to acknowledge and help people expand upon, so we don't, just move on to another concession or another distraction. Anyway, let's see. Yeah, that's what I wanted to put out with this video. He's been online long enough doing the same thing over and over and over again. So he's just going to keep repeating himself. Now, he's not saying anything different. That's why it's just on mute. His stream of consciousness is known. You know what it is. If you just look at it and you hear it, you know what it is. You know its maximums and you know its minimums. You know its mediums. And that's all you need to know, because the individuals like this, they don't have any dimensions to them. They're very just kind of, like I said, linear, and you can explain it as circular, because the same kind of way I was explaining linear is that you can explain it circular. It doesn't really go anywhere. Like I said, when I say linear, it means to, like, linear as in the sense of not to go on forever. Linear as in the sense it goes on to suck your time and then fall off, like it'll fall off a cliff, or it'll just go until you just can't go anymore, or it'll just run you into a wall eventually. But it's the same effect is to consume your time. So either consuming your time by being on a linear frame of consciousness, or consuming your time with running in a circle. It's the same shit. So that's the main point. Individuals like this are a personification of that. Owen Benjamin, he's a personification of that. There's no substance there's no depth to it. It's just like, I'm good, I'm building a fucking fence. The same way colonizers were, and so-called, settlers and pilgrims are today. Like the descendants of those people now, they're just like, well, I got my fucking fence. Fuck you. I got my money. Look at this shit's rolling in. I can sit on a computer in front of a busted ass fire and a damn keyboard and get 4,000 people to tune into me and get however much money every day. And meanwhile, people like us and people like me, like I'll speak for myself, people like me who are not necessarily struggling, but I ain't got that money like this dude has, and I'm on the same platform. But since he's already had his foot in the door, and he's got like other people say the complexion for protection, but he's all got the complexion for, you know, attention. That's another thing in there too. People don't even want to listen to us because they put us in a bag of like angry black man, or your word's not even relevant enough, because the same way people are attracted to listening to, you know, what looks like a god to them. So the subconscious programming of the blonde hair, blue-eyed Jesus programming. That's that same mentality that still wants to be pumped. No different than they pumping all this World War I, World War II, the Jewish propaganda, the Hitler propaganda. Those storylines are still those post-Columbian storylines that need to be amplified to consume your time, to consume your reality, to distract you, to desensitize you, to normalize your consciousness within. Like a friend of mine just the other day, we were walking around and just said, oh yeah, this would have been a beautiful day except for the chemtrails. And then now it's just like been a thing now. But I don't even like hearing people say that shit anymore. Don't even say that shit around me, because you don't even know what the fuck you just said right now. Like, now eventually I'm going to get to a point to telling these people straight up that I wouldn't even have any, like, people to hang out with. But that's a whole real thing. Like, don't mention fucking chemtrails unless you really going to mention chemtrails. Like, when I mention chemtrails, I'm talking about motherfuckers actually spraying shit in the sky to poison babies, to poison children. Don't throw it out there as some just, like, talking point for just woke heads. Like, oh, yeah, like, you know, I got this, you know, I'm aware of something. That shit don't matter. If ain't nothing behind it, it don't matter. So don't even talk about it. That's how I am. That's how I feel. Don't even talk about it. So these individuals like Joe and Benjamin, they are a personification of that. They just want to talk about chemtrails. Oh, well, here are the chemtrails. Oops. Hope you guys getting some money, or take care of yourself so you can build your own fence. You know, I got mine. I'm building my garden, my raised bed, all that. My shit's taken care of. I got my family. And then they hide behind, the whole like, oh, he's helping people, by making people think about these situations. But so the perspectives I even showed you right now, they're not even valid in some people's perspectives. They're gonna think I'm angry for bringing that stuff up because they're so consumed by the way, by what I just said about how they're gonna believe, oh yeah, all the bears, they're gonna come to his defense and be all like, oh, you don't even know, and that whole thing, he's doing so much, and that whole, like I said, that's with the inner stream of consciousness that has nothing to do. It has nothing to do with breaking free of the actual enslavement that he claims to be against. He's happy within his enslavement because he's a king in there. Look at him. He's got look at that glass he's drinking out of. It's fucking crazy. So, but people are, paying. He's just another jester. He's no different than Russell Brand. He's like the American version of the Russell Brand. Is he Canadian? I don't know. Who gives a shit? It's the same shit. What is this? Australia, Canada, United States. All this shit's been colonized. They won't fucking mention that. Why? Because they're trying to protect that shit. So on that note, I'll leave it there. Fuck this dude.